Billionaire CEO's newborn twins are dying, but only his abandoned ex-wife has the rare blood type. Your twins have maybe 72 hours without a transfusion. I need you to hear me when I say this. I'm the only person on this planet who can save them. The words fell between them like shards of glass in the pristine hospital corridor. Sienna Blackthorne stood before her ex-husband, still wearing the bakery apron she hadn't had time to remove when she'd gotten the call. Flour dusted her dark hair. Her hands, the same ones that had once worn his 8-carat diamond, now bore burns from this morning's ovens. Nicholas Ashcroft, billionaire tech mogul, master of a dozen companies, stood frozen in his $10,000 suit. Behind him, through the NICU window, two impossibly small babies fought for their lives, machines breathing for them, wires monitoring hearts that had been beating for only 6 days. How did you know? His voice cracked on the question. How did you know about the twins? About their blood type? Sienna's laugh held no humor. Because I'm listed in the International Rare Blood Registry, Nicholas. When your medical team sent out a desperate alert for Rh-null blood, my phone lit up. Imagine my surprise when I saw your name as the father. The father who told me 5 years ago that children would be, what was your phrase, an unnecessary complication to your empire building. That's not. This isn't. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it for the first time she'd ever seen. Victoria and I. We didn't plan. Victoria. Of course. The supermodel he'd replaced me with. How is your wife, by the way? Oh wait. She left you 3 days after giving birth, didn't she? Apparently motherhood wasn't compatible with her career either. Have you ever watched someone you once loved completely shatter before your eyes? Have you ever held someone's life, someone's entire world, in your hands and had to decide if they deserved saving? That's where I stood, watching the man who destroyed me beg without words for mercy he'd never shown me. Let me share how we got here, to this moment where salvation and vengeance wore the same face, and I had to choose which one to feed. 6 days ago, my life was simple. I owned Sweet Beginnings, a small bakery in Brooklyn that I'd built from nothing after my divorce. I woke at 3 a.m. every morning to prepare fresh bread, pastries that made people smile, wedding cakes for couples who still believed in forever. My apartment above the shop was modest but mine. My cat, Fitzgerald, was terrible company but consistent. I'd learned to find peace in solitude, joy in small things, and strength in surviving what should have broken me. Then my phone rang at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Not my regular phone, but the emergency line connected to the Rare Blood Registry. I joined it years ago after discovering my blood type during a medical screening. Rh-null, they called it. Golden blood. So rare that fewer than 50 people in the entire world have it. Blood that could save lives, but could never save mine if I needed it. This is Dr. Patricia Reeves from Mount Sinai Hospital. The voice was professional, but desperate. We have newborn twins in critical condition. They have Rh-null blood type and need immediate transfusions. Multiple transfusions. You're the only registered donor within 1,000 miles. Please, Ms. Blackthorne. Without your blood, these babies will die. I was already pulling on my shoes, already grabbing my keys. Children in need didn't require deliberation. Send me the details. I'm on my way. It wasn't until I was in the Uber, reading the medical forms they'd sent, that I saw his name. Nicholas Ashcroft, father. The phone slipped from my numb fingers. 5 years. It had been 5 years since I'd signed the divorce papers in his lawyer's office. 5 years since he'd looked at me with those cold gray eyes and said, "This is for the best, Sienna. We want different things. You want a family, stability, roots. I want to change the world. Those things aren't compatible." 5 years since I discovered he'd been sleeping with Victoria Monroe for the last 6 months of our marriage. 5 years since I'd taken my maiden name back and tried to forget I'd ever been Mrs. Ashcroft, ever been foolish enough to believe a man like him could love someone like me. And now he had twins. Dying twins. With my exact, impossibly rare blood type. You okay back there, honey? The Uber driver's voice broke through my spiral. Just drive faster, please. I whispered. There are babies who need me. The hospital was chaos when I arrived. Not the emergency room chaos I'd expected, but the controlled panic of wealth trying to buy its way out of death's grasp. Private security guards stood at every entrance to the NICU. Lawyers huddled in corners. Public relations specialists typed furiously on phones, presumably managing the media storm that would erupt if Nicholas Ashcroft's newborn twins died. I gave my name at the desk, and suddenly I was surrounded by medical personnel, all talking at once about consent forms and procedures and urgency. Then the crowd parted, and there he was. Nicholas looked nothing like the man who'd divorced me with surgical precision. His suit was wrinkled, his jaw unshaven, his gray eyes hollowed by exhaustion and something that might have been fear. For a moment, just a heartbeat, I saw the man I'd fallen in love with 8 years ago. The brilliant, driven visionary who'd also been capable of tenderness, of laughter, of love. Then he saw me, and his face went white. Sienna. Hello, Nicholas. I kept my voice steady, professional. Dr. Reeves called about the twins. I'm here to help. You're the donor. The Rh-null donor. Surprise. I moved past him toward the medical team. Now, doctor, what exactly do the babies need? Dr. Reeves, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and steady hands, took over. The twins were born 6 weeks premature. Their mother has a different rare blood type that created antibodies against their blood. They're experiencing severe hemolytic disease. Without transfusions of Rh-null blood, their organs will fail. How much blood? I was already rolling up my sleeve. We'll need multiple donations over several days, possibly weeks. The maximum safe amount each time. It's a significant commitment and risk to you. I looked through the NICU window at the 2 tiny beings fighting for their lives. A boy and a girl, the nurse had mentioned. They were so small, so fragile, their skin almost translucent under the warming lights. The boy had a shock of dark hair like Nicholas. The girl was bald as an egg, but had his distinctive nose. Whatever they need, I said simply. Sienna, wait. Nicholas caught my arm as I moved to follow the medical team. We should talk about. About what, Nicholas? Payment. I assume you were going to offer me money. How much is your children's lives worth to you? 1 million. 10 million. What's the going rate for salvation these days? That's not what Or were you going to explain about Victoria? How you had children with her after telling me they'd ruin your focus? After making me feel selfish for wanting a family? After? She left. His voice was hollow. 3 days after they were born. Said she couldn't do it, couldn't be a mother. Signed away her rights and flew to Milan for Fashion Week. I stared at him. This broken version of the man who'd broken me. So now you know how it feels to be abandoned by someone you love. Someone you trusted with your future. I never meant to hurt you. No, you just meant to trade up. I was the starter wife, the one who supported you while you built your empire. Then when you made it to the top, you needed someone more fitting for a billionaire. Someone who looked better in photos, who had the right connections, who wouldn't burden you with requests for Sunday dinners and babies and a normal life. Dr. Reeves interrupted gently. Ms. Blackthorne, we really need to begin if we're going to save them. I nodded, following her, but turned back to Nicholas one more time. I'm doing this for them, not for you. Those babies didn't choose their father any more than I did. They deserve a chance at life, even if their father doesn't deserve my help giving it to them. The first transfusion took 3 hours. They could only take so much blood at once, had to monitor my vitals, ensure I didn't go into shock. Nicholas sat in the corner of the donation room, silent, watching as my blood flowed through tubes toward his children. Their names are Emma and Ethan, he said suddenly. I didn't respond, focusing on the ceiling tiles, counting them to avoid looking at him. I named them after your grandparents. I don't know why. It just felt right. My throat constricted. My grandmother Emma, who'd raised me after my parents died. My grandfather Ethan, who'd taught me to bake, who'd left me the recipes I still used in my bakery. Nicholas had met them exactly once, at our wedding, before they'd passed within months of each other during our 2nd year of marriage. You don't get to do that. I whispered. You don't get to use their names like you cared about them. Like you cared about me. I did care. I do care. You have a funny way of showing it. If you're watching this and you've ever had to choose between revenge and mercy, between justified anger and undeserved grace, tell me in the comments what you chose. Sometimes the hardest person to save is the one who hurt us most. The nurse checking my vitals gave us both a meaningful look, and we fell silent again. When the donation was complete, I was wheeled to a recovery room, given juice and cookies like I'd just donated at a regular blood drive, instead of potentially saving 2 lives. Nicholas appeared in the doorway. They're responding to the transfusion. Color's already better. The doctor says you saved them. They're not saved yet. I reminded him. This is just the beginning. I know. He entered the room uninvited, taking the chair beside my bed. Sienna, I need to say something. No, you don't. Please. Just let me. He looked older than his 38 years, the past 6 days etched in lines around his eyes. When Victoria told me she was pregnant, I panicked. It wasn't planned, wasn't part of the strategy. But then they were born, and Sienna, the moment I saw them, held them, everything changed. Everything I thought mattered just disappeared. The companies, the money, the entire empire I built, none of it meant anything compared to those two tiny humans. Must be nice, I said bitterly. To finally understand what I tried to tell you for 3 years of marriage. I was an idiot. No, worse than that. I was cruel. I threw away the best thing in my life because I was terrified of being vulnerable, of losing control, of becoming my father. I sat up at that, surprised. Nicholas never talked about his father, the man who'd abandoned him and his mother when he was 7. He continued, staring at his hands. He left because he said kids made him feel trapped. Said he couldn't be himself with a family weighing him down. I spent my whole life swearing I'd never be him, and then I became him anyway. I left you because I was scared of wanting the very things that might make me stay. That's not an excuse. No, it's not. It's just context for an unforgivable choice. He met my eyes then, and the raw pain there made me look away. When the doctors said the twins needed RHNL blood, I thought it was over. The odds of finding a donor in time were astronomical. Then they said they'd found someone, and when I saw you walk through that door, I thought I was hallucinating. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. Or maybe it's offering me a chance to face what I did. To see the woman I destroyed become the savior I don't deserve. I studied him, this stranger wearing my ex-husband's face. The Nicholas I'd married would never have admitted weakness, never have acknowledged pain. Success had been his only metric, power his only goal. This man looked hollowed out by more than just fear for his children. Where are you living? I asked, changing the subject. The penthouse. That sterile museum of modern art and empty spaces. Those babies need a home, Nicholas, not a showpiece. I know. I've been looking at houses. Places with yards and good schools, and neighbors who actually talk to each other. Places like what you always wanted. Like what we always wanted. I corrected. Before you decided wanting was weakness. Before I could say more, Dr. Reeves returned with updates. The twins were stable, but would need another transfusion in 12 hours. She recommended I go home, rest, eat well, and hydrate. I have a hotel room nearby. Nicholas offered. You could rest there. I have an apartment. And a business to run. I'll be back tonight for the next donation. I left before he could argue, taking an Uber back to Brooklyn, back to my small, warm apartment that smelled like cinnamon and vanilla. Fitzgerald glared at me from his perch on the windowsill, offended by my absence. I fed him, showered, and tried to process the last 12 hours. Nicholas had twins. Nicholas, who'd said children would derail his ambitions, now had 2 babies who needed me to survive. The same blood that had once run through my veins as I cried over our divorce now ran through tiny bodies fighting to live. My phone rang. It was Marcus, my assistant at the bakery. Boss, where are you? The Mitchell wedding cake is due tomorrow, and we're swamped with morning orders. Family emergency. I'll be in shortly to finish the cake. Can you handle the morning prep? Of course, but are you okay? You never miss morning prep. I paused, unsure how to answer. I'm needed elsewhere right now, but I'll explain later. I spent 4 hours at the bakery, finishing the intricate 5-tier wedding cake that had taken weeks to plan. White chocolate and raspberry, with hand-piped roses and gold leaf details. The kind of cake I'd once dreamed of having at my own wedding, before I'd settled for a simple ceremony at City Hall, because Nicholas thought big weddings were inefficient. As I worked, piping each delicate petal, I thought about Emma and Ethan in their incubators. About Nicholas keeping vigil. About Victoria in Milan, walking runways while her children struggled to breathe. About the strange threads that connect us, the invisible bonds of blood and choice and chance. That evening, I returned to the hospital with a box of pastries for the NICU nurses. They'd be taking care of the twins for weeks, maybe months. The least I could do was provide decent coffee break snacks. Nicholas was exactly where I'd left him, standing at the NICU window. But now he wasn't alone. A woman in her 60s stood beside him, elegant even in her exhaustion. I recognized her immediately. Margaret Ashcroft, Nicholas's mother, the one person from his family I genuinely loved. Sienna. She saw me first, crossing the corridor to pull me into a hug that surprised us both. Oh, my dear girl. When Nicholas told me you were the donor, I couldn't believe it. After everything, after how he treated you, and you're still here saving my grandchildren. They're innocent in all this. I extracted myself gently from her embrace. They didn't choose their parents or their circumstances. Margaret studied my face with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. You always were too good for him. I told him so when he lost his mind and divorced you. Told him he'd regret it for the rest of his life. Mother. Nicholas's voice held warning. What? It's true. She turned on him with maternal fury. You had a woman who loved you, who wanted to build a life with you, who would have given you beautiful children and a real home, and you threw her away for what? For that vapid creature who abandoned her babies. For a few more $1 billion that mean nothing when you're sitting alone watching your children fight for their lives. Mrs. Ashcroft. Margaret. I interrupted. This isn't helpful. The past is past. Is it? She looked between us shrewdly. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like the past has come to save the present. Dr. Reeves appeared to escort me to the donation room, saving me from responding. This time, Nicholas didn't follow. But Margaret did. May I sit with you? She asked. I promise not to pressure you about my idiot son. You were never good at keeping promises about not interfering, I said, but smiled to soften it. True. She settled into the visitor's chair as the nurse prepared my arm. But I kept one promise. I never told Nicholas how often we talked after the divorce. I looked at her in surprise. That was supposed to be our secret. It still is. But Sienna, I need you to know something. He's been miserable for 5 years. Oh, successful, certainly. Richer than God, as they say. But miserable. He hired 3 private investigators to keep tabs on you. You what? Not to interfere. He was very specific about that. Just to know you were safe, happy, thriving. He has a file on his computer labeled S that he thinks I don't know about. It's full of photos of your bakery, articles about your success, copies of your social media posts. The man's been digitally stalking you for 5 years because he was too proud to admit he made a mistake. Why are you telling me this? Because those babies in there are going to need more than just your blood. They're going to need a family, a real support system. And whether my son deserves it or not, you're part of their story now. Your blood is literally keeping them alive. That means something. It means I have a rare blood type. Nothing more. Margaret gave me a look that said she wasn't buying it. You were meant to be their mother. You know it, I know it. And somewhere under all that guilt and self-loathing, Nicholas knows it too. Victoria is their mother. Victoria is in Milan pretending they don't exist. You're here, giving your literal life force to save them. Who sounds more like a mother to you? The donation finished. I escaped Margaret's matchmaking and found myself wandering to the NICU window. A nurse was holding Emma, the smaller of the twins, trying to coax her to take a bottle. She was failing, the baby too weak to suck properly. Without thinking, I knocked on the door. The nurse recognized me, the donor who'd been coming twice daily. She won't eat. The nurse, whose name tag read Jennifer, looked exhausted. Been trying for an hour. May I try? I'm not family, but, honey, you're giving these babies your blood. Far as I'm concerned, that makes you family. Jennifer carefully transferred Emma to my arms. She weighed almost nothing, maybe 4 pounds. Her skin was still slightly jaundiced, but pinker than before, thanks to the transfusions. I settled into the rocking chair, adjusting her position slightly, and offered the bottle at a different angle, one my grandmother had taught me when I'd helped with foster babies at her church. Emma latched immediately, surprising us both. Her eyes, still that indeterminate newborn blue-gray, opened and seemed to focus on my face. Well, I'll be damned, Jennifer whispered. Pardon my language, but she hasn't taken more than an ounce at a time for days. I hummed softly, a lullaby my grandmother used to sing, and Emma continued to eat, her tiny fingers wrapping around one of mine. Through the window, I saw Nicholas watching, his expression unreadable. When Emma finished the bottle, a full 3 ounces, Jennifer practically danced. That's the most. I'll be here for donations anyway. I glanced at Nicholas, still watching through the glass. Might as well make myself useful. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma's tiny face, felt her weightless presence in my arms. For pounds of human potential, fighting for every breath, every heartbeat. I'd held many babies over the years, helped with my grandmother's foster children, cuddled friends' newborns. But holding Emma had felt different. Like coming home to a place I'd never been, but always belonged. At 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went to the bakery. Baking had always been my meditation, my therapy, my way of making sense of the world. I started with bread, the simple rhythm of kneading dough grounding me. Then cookies, the kind with extra chocolate chips that Nicholas used to steal from the cooling rack when we were married. I was piping roses on a practice cake when Marcus arrived at 5. "Boss, you look terrible," he said with his characteristic bluntness. "When's the last time you actually slept?" "Tuesday, maybe." "What day is it now?" "Friday." "Jesus, Sienna. What's this family emergency? And don't say it's nothing. You've made enough pastries here to stock 3 bakeries." I set down the piping bag and really looked at Marcus for the first time. 25, talented, ambitious, and unfailingly loyal. He'd started as an intern 2 years ago and had become indispensable. More than that, he'd become a friend. "If I tell you something insane, will you promise to keep it secret?" "Always." So I told him. About the twins, the rare blood, Nicholas, all of it. Marcus listened without interrupting, his expression cycling through surprise, anger on my behalf, and finally, understanding. "You're going to save them," he said. It wasn't a question. "I'm trying." "But Marcus, it's complicated. Being there, seeing Nicholas with them, remembering what we had and what we lost. Do you still love him?" The question I'd been avoiding for 5 years. I don't know. I love who he was, or who I thought he was. But this version of him, the one sitting vigil over dying newborns, the one who named them after my grandparents, I don't know him. Maybe that's the point. Maybe tragedy strips us down to who we really are, not who we pretend to be. When did you become so philosophical? When my boss started looking like she hasn't slept since Tuesday. Marcus hip-checked me away from the cake. Go back to the hospital, donate your magical blood, figure out your complicated feelings. I've got the bakery. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling. Besides, the Mitchells already picked up their cake, and everything else is routine. Go save some babies, boss. And maybe save yourself while you're at it. I arrived at the hospital to find chaos. Not medical chaos, but media chaos. Somehow, the press had discovered that Nicholas Ashcroft's twins were in the NICU, that Victoria had abandoned them, and that a mysterious donor was providing life-saving transfusions. Photographers crowded the hospital entrance. Reporters thrust microphones at anyone in scrubs. I pulled up my hood and tried to slip through unnoticed, but a security guard recognized me and quickly ushered me through a side entrance. "It's been like this since 5 a.m. he explained. Someone leaked the story. Nicholas was in the hallway outside the NICU, on the phone with what sounded like his legal team, his voice sharp with barely controlled fury. When he saw me, he ended the call immediately. "Sienna, thank God. I thought the circus outside might have scared you off. It takes more than some photographers to scare me, Nicholas. I survived being married to you, remember?" He flinched, but didn't argue. The twins had another rough night. Ethan's oxygen levels dropped, and Emma stopped eating again after you left. "Let me donate first, then I'll try feeding them again." The donation room had been moved to a more secure wing to avoid the media. As the nurse prepared my arm, Nicholas paced the small space like a caged animal. "I need to ask you something," he said suddenly. "If it's about money again." "It's not about money. It's about time. How long can you keep doing this?" "The donations, I mean. It's been a week. You have a business, a life." I studied him carefully. "As long as the twins need me. That could be weeks more. Maybe months. The doctor said until they're strong enough to produce their own blood cells properly. Then weeks or months it is." He stopped pacing, staring at me. "Why? Really why? After everything I did to you, why would you commit months of your life to saving my children?" I thought about lying, about claiming pure altruism or medical duty. But exhaustion had stripped away my defenses, leaving only truth. "Because I used to dream about them," I admitted quietly. "When we were married, I used to imagine our children. What they'd look like, what we'd name them, how you'd be as a father. I dreamed about twins, actually. A boy and a girl. I even picked out names." Nicholas moved closer, his voice rough. "What names?" "Emma and Ethan. After my grandparents." The silence that followed was deafening. Nicholas sank into the visitor's chair, his head in his hands. "I stole your dreams," he whispered. "I took the children you wanted and had them with someone else. Someone who didn't even want them. God, Sienna, how can you stand to look at me? Because those babies aren't responsible for your choices. And because." I hesitated, then continued. Because maybe some dreams are meant to come true, just not the way we imagine them. After the donation, I went to the NICU. Jennifer practically pulled me inside. Thank God you're here. Neither of them will eat. We've tried everything. I spent the next 3 hours with the twins. First Emma, who only settled when I hummed my grandmother's lullaby. Then Ethan, who was indeed pickier but finally took his bottle when I told him stories about the bakery, about the smell of fresh bread, and the way sunlight looked through flour dust in the air. Nicholas watched from the doorway the entire time. When both babies were finally fed and sleeping, he spoke. They know you. That's impossible. They're a week old. My mother says the same thing. That babies know things we don't understand. That they recognize souls, not faces. Your mother says a lot of things. She wants me to ask you to move into the penthouse. Nicholas said it quickly, like ripping off a bandage. Just temporarily. You're exhausting yourself with the back and forth, and the twins clearly respond better to you than anyone else. There's a guest suite, completely separate from my space. You'd have privacy, and it's only 5 minutes from the hospital. That's insane. Is it? You're already dedicating your days to saving them. At least this way you wouldn't have the commute. And, he paused. I could pay you for your time. $1 million a month. I stood so quickly the rocking chair almost tipped. And there it is. There's the Nicholas the first remember. Thinking money solves everything. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? You can't buy me, Nicholas. You can't buy my blood, or my time, or my forgiveness. I'm here for Emma and Ethan, not for your money. I know. I'm sorry. I don't know how to do this, Sienna. How to need someone I hurt. How to accept help I don't deserve. Money is the only language I've been speaking for 5 years. Then learn a new language. I headed for the door, but turned back. And for the record, I'll think about the penthouse. Not for you, not for money, but because you're right. The commute is exhausting, and the twins need consistency. But if I do this, we have rules. Boundaries. This is a medical arrangement, nothing more. Whatever you need, whatever you want. I wanted a husband who loved me more than his ambitions. I wanted children who were ours, not hers. I wanted the life we planned before you decided plans were for people without vision. But all I said was, I'll let you know tomorrow. That evening, I sat in my apartment with Fitzgerald, making a pro and con list. The cat contributed by sitting on the paper, his way of voting against any plan that didn't center around him. My phone rang. It was Margaret. I hear Nicholas made a complete hash of asking you to stay at the penthouse. News travels fast in the Ashcroft family. He offered you money, didn't he? The idiot. I told him to just ask, appeal to your kindness. But no. He had to make it a transaction. It's what he knows. It's what he's hidden behind. Margaret's voice softened. Sienna, dear, I'm going to tell you something Nicholas doesn't know. I had RH blood too. What? But that means. It means I could have donated to the twins, yes. But I'm 73 years old with a heart condition. The doctors said the risk was too high. I might save the twins, but die in the process. Margaret, the point is, I understand what you're going through. The weight of being someone's only hope. When Nicholas was born, he had complications too. Different ones, but serious. I nearly died giving him life. And I would do it again in a heartbeat because that's what we do for our children. They're not my children, aren't they? You're literally giving them your life force. You're the only one who can feed them properly. You sing them your grandmother's songs. Tell me that doesn't make them yours in some way. It's complicated. Love always is. But Sienna, those babies need more than just your blood. They need consistency, presence, someone who chooses them every day. Their mother abandoned them. Their father is learning how to love something more than money. But you loved them before they existed. You told Nicholas you dreamed about them. You were eavesdropping. Mother's prerogative. The penthouse has been redesigned, by the way. Nicholas gutted it after Victoria left. It's warmer now, actual colors and comfortable furniture. He even built a nursery, though he doesn't know the first thing about babies. Maybe you could help him learn. If you're watching this and thinking about Margaret's question, what makes someone a mother? Leave a comment below. Is it biology, choice, or something deeper that we can't quite name? Sometimes families are built in the most unexpected ways. The next morning, I stood outside the penthouse building I'd once called home. The doorman, Robert, nearly dropped his coffee when he saw me. Mrs. Ashcroft. I mean, Miss Blackthorne. It's been years. 5 years, Robert. How's your grandson? Starting college next year. Thanks for remembering. Mr. Ashcroft said you might be coming. The guest suite is ready. and he wanted me to give you this." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a single key and a note in Nicholas's handwriting. No strings. No expectations. Just a place to rest between saving my children's lives. The suite has its own entrance if you prefer not to see me, though I hope you won't use it. I took the elevator to the penthouse, using my old code, which surprisingly still worked. The space that greeted me was nothing like the cold museum I remembered. Warm wood floors replaced white marble. Comfortable couches in deep blues and greens filled the living room. The walls held actual art, not just expensive pieces, but paintings with warmth and meaning. And photographs. So many photographs. I moved closer to examine them. Some were from our marriage, pictures I thought he'd destroyed. Our trip to Greece. Our first apartment, tiny and perfect. Me, covered in flour, laughing at something off camera. But there were also newer photos. My bakery's grand opening. Me through the window, decorating a cake. The article about my community work, framed like it was precious. You kept tabs on me, I said to the empty room. Every day, Nicholas's voice came from behind me. I didn't hear him enter. Every single day for 5 years, I looked for you in some way. Had to know you were okay, that you were happy. Were you satisfied? Was I sufficiently thriving without you? You were magnificent. He moved into my line of sight, but kept his distance. You built something real, something that mattered. Every cake you made, every couple whose wedding you enhanced, every morning regular who smiled because of your pastries. You created joy, Sienna. I created wealth. Which one of us was actually successful? Don't do that. Don't diminish what you built. Why not? What good is any of it if I'm alone in this penthouse while my children fight for their lives, and the only woman I ever loved has to be convinced to help me? You loved Victoria. No, I was attracted to Victoria. I was fascinated by her, the way you might be fascinated by a sports car or a piece of technology. But love, I only understood love after I lost it. After I lost you, I turned away from the photographs, from the evidence of his obsession or devotion or whatever it was. The guest suite. Down the hall, second door. But Sienna, would you look at the nursery first? Please. I need to know if I'm doing any of this right. The nursery was across from the guest suite, and it was clear Nicholas had tried. 2 cribs in soft white, a rocking chair that looked ergonomically designed but uncomfortable, a changing table still in its packaging. The walls were painted a gender-neutral yellow, but the room felt incomplete, like someone had bought all the pieces but didn't know how to make them into a whole. It's a start, I said diplomatically. It's terrible. You can say it. I bought everything the consultant recommended, but it doesn't feel right. That's because a nursery isn't about things, Nicholas. It's about love. About creating a space where babies feel safe and cherished. This looks like a hospital room with expensive furniture. Will you help me? Not for me, for them. Make it something they want to come home to. When are they coming home? Maybe 2 more weeks if they keep improving. If you keep saving them. I looked around the sterile room, imagining Emma and Ethan here. They deserved better than this cold perfection. We'll need different lighting. Soft lamps, not overhead fluorescents. And mobiles, the kind that play music. Books, lots of books. Soft blankets that smell like comfort, not store packaging. And photos. Babies need to see faces to understand they're part of something bigger than themselves. We could use photos of you, Nicholas said quietly. Since you're the one keeping them alive, they should have photos of their mother, the woman who abandoned them. No, if anyone deserves to be on these walls, it's you. I didn't argue further, too tired for that particular battle. The guest suite, when Nicholas showed it to me, was perfect. A bedroom, small living area, and private bathroom, all decorated in soft grays and lavenders. My favorite colors, which he surely remembered. I had your things from the bakery sent over. Nicholas gestured to boxes in the corner. Clothes, toiletries, whatever Marcus said you'd need. He also sent Fitzgerald and his supplies. You brought my cat. He seemed to think you'd stay if Fitzgerald was here. Something about not abandoning the demon. That sounds like Marcus. Where is Fitzgerald? Hiding under my bed, hissing at anyone who comes near. He's very protective of his territory. Also sounds like him. I sat on the bed, testing its softness. This is too much, Nicholas. It's not enough. Nothing will ever be enough to repay what you're doing. I'm not looking for repayment. I know. That's what makes it so humbling. We went to the hospital together, his driver taking us in a car with tinted windows to avoid the media still camped outside. The twins were having a good day, the nurses reported. Stronger vitals, better responses. Dr. Rees was optimistic about their progress. At this rate, they might go home sooner than expected. She told us, their blood production is improving faster than anticipated. It's like they're fighting harder knowing someone's fighting for them. I did my donation, then spent time with each twin. Emma was starting to recognize my voice, turning her head when I spoke. Ethan had discovered he could grip things and refused to let go of my finger for a full hour. Nicholas worked on his laptop in the corner, running his empire remotely while watching us. Every time I looked up, he was staring at me with the babies, his expression soft and wondering. "You're natural with them," he said as I settled Ethan after a feeding. I helped with foster babies at my grandmother's church. Learned how to hold them, feed them, comfort them. She used to say babies needed 3 things to thrive: food, warmth, and someone who chose them every day. You're choosing them. They're easy to choose. Look at them, Nicholas. They're perfect. They're perfect because you're saving them. They're perfect because they're themselves. Your children, yes, but their own people too. Emma's going to be stubborn. You can already see it in how she fights for what she wants. And Ethan's going to be thoughtful. He observes everything before reacting. You can tell all that already. My grandmother could predict entire personalities from how babies nursed. She was rarely wrong. Tell me more about her. About both of them. Your grandparents. So I did. As I held his children, I told him about the people who'd raised me. About Sunday dinners and birthday cakes. About my grandfather teaching me to proof yeast and my grandmother showing me how to pipe roses. About love that didn't keep score or demand perfection, but simply existed, constant as breath. I wanted that, Nicholas said when I finished. What you're describing. I wanted it with you, but I was too scared to admit it. What changed? Everything. These 2 tiny humans depending on me. Watching you save them without asking for anything in return. Realizing that I had everything except what mattered. That night, in the penthouse, we ate takeout Chinese in the kitchen while discussing the twins' progress. It felt dangerously like old times, before ambition became his mistress and success his only child. The fortune cookies were prophetic in their cruelty. Mine read, "The path you're on will lead to unexpected joy." His read, "Second chances come to those who earn them." Do you believe in signs? Nicholas asked, staring at his fortune. I believe in choices. Signs are just excuses to do what we already want to do. And what do you want to do, Sienna? Right now? I want to save your children. I want to give them the chance at life that our... I stopped, but the word hung there anyway. That they deserve. Our children. You were going to say our children. I stood, clearing the containers. It's late. I have an early donation tomorrow. Sienna, wait. Do you ever think about it? What would have happened if I'd said yes when you told me you wanted a family? If I'd chosen differently? Every day for 5 years. But thinking about it doesn't change it, Nicholas. We can't go back. But we could go forward. I turned to face him. Forward to what? You having the family you wanted with someone else's abandoned babies while I play blood donor and part-time nanny. That's not moving forward. That's sideways at best. It could be more. Based on what? Your track record of choosing family over ambition. Your deep understanding of commitment. Your ability to love something you can't control or monetize. That's not fair, isn't it? Tell me, Nicholas, when the twins are healthy, when they don't need my blood anymore, what? Them, seeing what real love looks like, it's changed me. Sienna, I know I have no right to ask, but then don't. Don't ask for something you know I can't give. I can give the twins my blood. I can give them my time while they need it. But I can't give you my heart again, Nicholas. I barely survived losing it the first time. I left him standing in the kitchen and retreated to the guest suite, where Fitzgerald was indeed hiding under the bed. I coaxed him out with treats and curled up with him, his purring the only comfort against the storm in my chest. Because here was the truth I couldn't say. I was already falling. Every moment with the twins, every glimpse of Nicholas learning to be a father, every evidence of his transformation, pulled me deeper into something I couldn't afford to feel. Those babies weren't mine, but my heart didn't know the difference. And Nicholas wasn't my husband anymore, but my body remembered every touch, every kiss, every promise we'd made and broken. 3 days passed in careful routine. Donations, feedings, avoiding being alone with Nicholas. The twins grew stronger. The media attention grew weaker as other scandals emerged. Margaret visited daily, making increasingly unsubtle comments about family and second chances. On the fourth day, everything changed. I arrived for my morning donation to find the hospital in subtle chaos. Not emergency chaos, but administrative panic. Dr. Reeves pulled me aside immediately. There's been a development. Victoria Monroe is here. What? Why? She's claiming parental rights. Says she's changed her mind about the twins. But she signed away her rights. Her lawyers are arguing she was suffering from postpartum depression, not in her right mind. They're demanding access to the twins and challenging the custody arrangement. I found Nicholas in the hallway, on the phone with his legal team, his face carved from stone. When he saw me, he ended the call. She can't have them. His voice was deadly quiet. She left them to die. She flew to Milan while they were fighting for their lives. She doesn't get to change her mind now that they're surviving. What does she want? Really? Money, probably. Or publicity. Her career's been struggling. Dating a billionaire's ex-husband while his twins fight for life, saved by the woman he divorced. It's a story that sells magazines. Where is she? Conference room 3 with her lawyers. She's demanding to see them. Over my dead body. Sienna, you don't have any legal standing here. Don't I? I pushed past him toward the conference room. We'll see about that. Victoria Monroe looked exactly as I remembered her. Tall, ethereal, with cheekbones that could cut glass and eyes that calculated the value of everything they saw. She was holding a press conference in the conference room, tears flowing perfectly down her unmarred face. The hormones after birth were overwhelming. She was telling a reporter, I wasn't myself. But now, knowing my babies are fighting for their lives, a mother's love has brought me back. Interesting, I said, stepping into the room. A mother's love. Is that what brought you back from Milan? Or was it the news coverage? The sympathy sales. The potential book deal about the supermodel who chose career over children, then found redemption. Victoria's tears stopped immediately. And you are Sienna Blackthorne. The woman whose blood is keeping your abandoned babies alive. The one who's been here every day, twice a day, giving them what you couldn't be bothered to provide. Presents. The lawyers started to intervene, but I wasn't done. Tell me, Victoria, what's Emma's favorite song? How does Ethan like to be held? What time do they usually wake up hungry? How many ounces can Emma manage now? What makes Ethan calm down when he's fussy? She stared at me, unable to answer a single question. That's what I thought. You don't know them. You don't love them. You love the idea of them, the story they create, the sympathy they generate. But actual love, the kind that sits through screaming and sickness and uncertainty, you're not capable of that. You have no right. Victoria started. I have every right. My blood runs through their veins. My voice is the one they recognize. My arms are the ones they settle in. I've given more of myself to those babies in 2 weeks than you did in 9 months. So don't talk to me about rights. Rights are earned, not claimed. Nicholas appeared beside me. The lawyers can handle this. Both of you. No. I turned on him too. You don't get to manage this like a hostile takeover. Those babies upstairs need protection from both their parents' ambitions. You wanted them as legacy. She wants them as leverage. Neither of you understands that they're people, not possessions. Then what do you suggest? Nicholas asked quietly. I suggest you both remember that Emma and Ethan are fighting for their lives while you're fighting over their futures. I suggest you consider what they need, not what you want. And I suggest that if Victoria is serious about being their mother, she starts by sitting through a donation session, watching her children's bodies accept my blood because hers couldn't keep them alive. Victoria paled. I don't need to watch medical procedures. Then you don't need to claim children whose medical needs you can't even witness. Motherhood isn't a photo opportunity, Victoria. It's showing up when showing up is hard. It's choosing them over yourself, every single time. It's exactly what you proved you couldn't do when you flew to Milan. I left them all standing there and went to do my donation. The nurse, who'd clearly heard the confrontation, squeezed my shoulder. That was incredible. She whispered, those babies are lucky to have you fighting for them. I'm just the blood donor. Honey, you're so much more than that, and everyone knows it except you. After the donation, I found Victoria in the NICU observation room, staring through the window at the twins. Her perfect composure was cracked, makeup smeared, hands trembling. They're so small. She whispered. They were smaller. 3 weeks ago, they could fit in one hand. Now they're over 5 pounds each. Because of you. Because of medicine. And luck. And their own strength. She turned to me, and for the first time, I saw something real in her eyes. Fear. I didn't bond with them. During the pregnancy, after the birth, I felt nothing. The doctor said it happens sometimes, but I thought if I left, they'd be better off. Nicholas has money, resources. He could hire the best nannies. Nannies aren't mothers. Neither was I. She sat heavily in a visitor's chair. I looked at them and saw strangers who'd ruined my body, my career, my life. So I left. And now everyone thinks I'm a monster. Are you back because you feel differently, or because you care what everyone thinks? Both. Neither. I don't know. Victoria laughed bitterly. I know I'm not maternal. I know I'll probably fail them. But they're still mine, aren't they? My DNA, my responsibility. Your DNA nearly killed them. My blood saved them. Which one of us is more theirs? If you're still watching, I need to know what you think. Can someone learn to be a mother? Can love grow from obligation, or does it have to exist from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I'm standing here trying to decide if Victoria deserves a chance, or if some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. Victoria studied me with those calculating eyes. You love them. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Yes. And Nicholas. You love him too. Still. Again. Whatever. That's none of your business. It is if you're going to raise my children. I'm not. I'm just helping until they don't need my blood anymore. Victoria laughed, but it wasn't cruel. It was knowing. Honey, you're already their mother in every way that counts. The way you look at them, the way they respond to you, the way Nicholas watches you with them like you're performing miracles. Which I suppose you are. What do you want, Victoria? Really, I want to not be the villain in this story. I want to know my children are loved and cared for. I want to be able to sleep without wondering if I made the worst mistake of my life. She met my eyes. And I want to know if you'd consider an arrangement. What kind of arrangement? The kind where I sign away my rights permanently, not under duress this time. Where you become their legal mother. Where I can maybe visit sometimes, be Aunt Victoria who brings presents from Paris and teaches them about fashion when they're older. Where everyone gets what they actually want instead of what they think they should want. You'd give up your children. I'd give them to someone who already loves them better than I ever could. Victoria stood, smoothing her designer dress. I'm not a monster, Sienna. I'm just a woman who knows her limitations. And motherhood is beyond them. But you don't have limitations when it comes to love, do you? That's why Nicholas could never get over you. Why he has a digital shrine to you on his computer. Why he accidentally called me by your name in bed more than once. You what? Oh yes. The great Nicholas Ashcroft, master of the universe, completely broken by losing you. Do you know he used to drive to your bakery at night? Just sit outside in his car like some stalker, watching you through the windows. His assistant told me he once spent 3 hours in a board meeting doodling your name on financial projections. Stop. Why? You should know what you meant to him. What you still mean. Victoria moved toward the door. I'll have my lawyers draw up the papers. Full custody to Nicholas, with provisions for you to adopt. I'll tell the media I realized I wasn't ready for motherhood, and that the twins are better off with their father and the woman who saved their lives. Everyone wins. Except the twins who'll grow up knowing their biological mother didn't want them. No, they'll grow up knowing their biological mother loved them enough to give them to someone who could love them better. There's a difference. She left, and I stood alone in the observation room, watching Emma and Ethan sleep. They were breathing on their own now, fewer wires, less machinery. They looked like actual babies instead of medical emergencies. Nicholas found me there an hour later. Victoria's lawyers sent the paperwork. He said quietly, she's really doing it. Signing away all rights, no financial demands, no conditions except occasional visits if we agree. I don't understand. She's doing what she thinks is best for them. And what do you think is best for them? I think they need parents who choose them every day, who show up when it's hard, when it's exhausting, when it's thankless. They need consistency and unconditional love, and someone who sings them lullabies even when they're too young to understand the words. You. He moved closer. They need you. They need stability, Nicholas. Not some complicated arrangement where I'm the blood donor turned nanny turned what? Your live-in ex-wife. Your employee. Your co-parent to children that aren't legally mine. They could be. Legally yours. If you wanted. I turned to face him fully. What are you saying? I'm saying Victoria's not the only one who's been thinking about arrangements. I'm saying I have lawyers ready to draw up adoption papers the moment you agree. I'm saying those babies in there are already yours in every way that matters. and I want to make it official. And what about us? What are we in this arrangement? Whatever you want us to be. Co-parents. Friends. Something more if you're ever ready for that. I know I destroyed what we had, Sienna. I know I can't undo the past. But maybe we could write a different future. One where Emma and Ethan grow up with two parents who love them and maybe, eventually, learn to trust each other again. You're asking me to give up my life. My bakery, my apartment, my independence. To what? Play house with my ex-husband and his abandoned twins. No. I'm asking you to take the life you already have and expand it. Keep the bakery. Hell, open a second location funded by me if you want. Keep your independence. But give Emma and Ethan what neither of us had. A complete family. Parents who choose each other, even if it's just as partners in raising them. I looked through the window at the twins, then at Nicholas, then back at the babies who'd somehow become mine without my permission. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. But Sienna, know this. Whether you say yes or no, whether you stay or go, you've already given me and them more than we deserved. You saved their lives with your blood. You saved my soul by showing me what I threw away. Whatever you decide, I'll be grateful for that forever. That night, I sat in the nursery he'd tried to create, Fitzgerald purring in my lap. I'd moved some things around, added touches of warmth. A rocking chair that actually rocked. Soft blankets that smelled like lavender. Pictures on the walls, including one of my grandparents I'd brought from my apartment. Margaret found me there. Redecorating, I see. Much better. Nicholas has the aesthetic sense of a robot. He tries. He does. She settled into the second rocking chair I'd had delivered. He's been trying for 5 years, actually, to forget you, to move on, to convince himself he made the right choice. Failed miserably at all of it. Margaret. What? I'm old. I can speak truths everyone else dances around. My son is an idiot who threw away the best thing that ever happened to him. But he's also a man who's learned from his mistakes. The question is whether you can forgive him. I don't know if forgiveness is mine to give. Of course it is. You're the one he wronged. You're the only one who can absolve him. What if I can't? What if the hurt is too deep, the trust too broken? Then you co-parent beautifully and find love elsewhere. But Sienna, what if you can? What if the love you had could be rebuilt, stronger for having been tested? What if Emma and Ethan could grow up with parents who chose each other not despite the pain, but because of what they learned from it? You're asking me to take an enormous risk. I'm asking you to consider that the greatest risks often yield the greatest rewards. Margaret stood, kissing my forehead like I was her own daughter. Those babies need you. My son needs you. The question is, what do you need? After she left, I called Marcus. How's the bakery? Running perfectly, as always. How are the tiny humans? Getting stronger. They might come home next week. Home. Interesting word choice. I thought you were just staying there temporarily. Marcus. Look, boss, I'm going to say something, and you can fire me if you want. You've been in love with Nicholas Ashcroft since the day you met him. Even when you hated him, you loved him. And now he's offering you everything you ever wanted. A family, children, him trying to be the man you needed him to be. What's stopping you? Fear. Common sense. Self-preservation. All overrated. You know what's not overrated? Love. Second chances. Babies who need their mother. They're not my babies, Marcus. Bullshit. You've bled for them, literally. You've sung them to sleep, fed them when no one else could, fought for them against their biological mother. If that doesn't make them yours, I don't know what does. It's not that simple. Love never is. But sometimes the complicated path is the right one. Besides, you named your bakery Sweet Beginnings. Maybe it's time for your own. The next morning, I walked into Nicholas's home office where he was working, despite it being Sunday. Old habits die hard. We need to talk, I said. He immediately closed his laptop. Of course. About the twins. The arrangement. Us. All of it. But first, I need complete honesty. No business speak, no careful negotiations. Just truth. Always. Do you love them? Emma and Ethan. Not as heirs or legacy or continuation of your empire. Do you love them as the messy, complicated, time-consuming miracles they are? More than I've ever loved anything. Including myself. Including my companies. They've redefined every priority I thought I had. And me? What am I to you? Really? Nicholas stood, crossing to stand in front of me, but not touching. You're the woman I've loved since I was 30 years old. The one I was too stupid and scared to hold on to. The mother my children deserve. The partner I need. The only person who's ever seen all of me, the good and the terrible, and somehow still shows up. What happens when the crisis is over? When the twins are healthy and life becomes routine. When you remember how much you love the adrenaline of deals and acquisitions. Then I come home to you in them. Every night. No matter what. He took a breath. I've already restructured everything. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations. I'll remain chairman, but I'll work from home mostly. 9 to 5, like a normal person. Because being a father, a real father, is more important than being a billionaire. You'd give up your empire for them. I'd give up everything for them. And for you, if you'd let me. I studied his face, looking for the lie, the angle, the escape clause. But all I found was exhaustion, hope, and something that looked dangerously like the love we'd once shared. I have conditions. I said, anything. We go to couples counseling. Real therapy, not some corporate mediator. We work through our past before we can build a future. Agreed. I keep the bakery. My independence. My own money. Of course. The twins know the truth when they're old enough. About Victoria, about how we came back together, all of it. No lies, no fairy tales. Complete honesty. Agreed. And Nicholas. I moved closer. If you ever choose work over family again, if you miss birthdays for board meetings or anniversaries for acquisitions, I will take those children and disappear so completely that all your money won't find us. He caught my hands, holding them against his chest where his heart hammered. I swear to you, on my love for our children. Our children. You said our children. That's what they are, aren't they? Ours. Yours by choice and blood and devotion. Mine by biology and belated understanding. Ours by this second chance neither of us expected. I kissed him then. Not the desperate passion of our early days or the bitter goodbye of our divorce, but something new. Tentative but real. A beginning built on the ashes of an ending. When we broke apart, both breathless, Nicholas rested his forehead against mine. Is that a yes? It's a maybe becoming a probably heading toward a yes. I smiled. But Nicholas, we take this slow. We're not the same people who got married 8 years ago. We need to learn each other again. As slow as you need. Though I should mention the twins come home in 3 days. Then we better figure out how to be parents quickly and partners slowly. He laughed, the first genuine joy I'd heard from him in years. I can work with that. 3 days later, we brought Emma and Ethan home. The media had been given a carefully crafted story. Victoria had realized she wasn't ready for motherhood and had granted full custody to Nicholas, with Sienna Blackthorne, the twins' medical savior, agreeing to help raise them. It was enough truth to satisfy the public without exposing the complexities. The twins' homecoming was nothing like I'd imagined when 2 hours. Nicholas took Emma, I took Ethan, then we'd switch. By dawn, we were exhausted but exhilarated. We're really doing this, Nicholas said, Emma sleeping on his chest as we sat on the couch watching the sunrise. We really are. I agreed, Ethan milk-drunk and peaceful in my arms. Thank you. For saving them. For saving me. For giving us this chance. Thank you for becoming someone worth taking a chance on. The weeks that followed were a blur of feedings and diapers, doctor's appointments, and sleepless nights. But also first smiles, first laughs, the moment Emma grabbed Ethan's hand, and they held on like they'd never let go. Nicholas kept his promise about work. He was home by 5 every day, often earlier. He learned to make bottles one-handed while on conference calls. He perfected the art of the smooth diaper change. He could get Ethan to sleep when no one else could, walking him in circles while humming off-key. I kept the bakery but promoted Marcus to manager, giving him the autonomy he'd earned. I worked mornings while Nicholas had the twins, then we'd trade off. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. The adoption papers were filed quietly. In 6 months, I'd legally be their mother. The thought terrified and thrilled me equally. One evening, when the twins were 3 months old and finally sleeping through the night, Nicholas found me in the nursery, watching them sleep. Marry me, he said suddenly. What? Not now. Not soon. But someday, when you trust me again, when you believe I'm not going anywhere, marry me. Again. Properly this time. With our children as witnesses and your grandmother's lace and my mother crying and everything we should have had the first time. Nicholas, I know it's too soon. I know we're still finding our way. But I need you to know that's where I'm headed. Toward a future where you're my wife again, where these beautiful children call you mama without legal documents requiring it, where we're a family in every sense. Ask me in a year. I said, when the twins are walking and talking. When we've survived teething and tantrums. When we know we can do this not just in crisis, but in ordinary time. A year. He agreed. I can wait a year. I'd wait forever if necessary. But we didn't need a year. 6 months later, on a random Tuesday while I was covered in baby food and he was trying to prevent Ethan from eating his quarterly report, Nicholas looked at me and said, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I'm covered in mashed peas. Still beautiful. Marry me." You said a year. I lied. Marry me, Sienna. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I learned my lesson. Let our children grow up seeing what love looks like when it's been tested and chosen anyway. I looked at our life. Messy, complicated, nothing like either of us had planned. Emma pulling herself up on the coffee table, so close to walking. Ethan babbling something that sounded almost like mama. Nicholas, no longer the cold corporate titan, but a man who knew every nursery rhyme and wasn't afraid to sing them in public. Yes, I said simply. Yes, yes. But Nicholas, I want a real wedding this time. My grandmother's church if it's still standing. The dress I always dreamed of. Our children as ring bearers, even if they eat the rings. Anything. Everything. Name it, and it's yours. I already have everything. I gestured to our chaos. This is everything. If you made it this far in our story, you've witnessed something most people never see. Love rebuilt from ashes, trust earned through action, and families formed in the most unexpected ways. Please subscribe if you believe in second chances, in choosing love even when it's scary, in the power of forgiveness to transform lives. Leave a comment about what family means to you, whether it's blood or choice or something indefinable that lives in the space between heartbeats. 1 year later, I stood in my grandmother's church wearing her wedding dress, altered to fit, but still perfect. Emma toddled down the aisle throwing flowers with violent enthusiasm, while Ethan, more cautious, carried a pillow with rings tied firmly to it. Margaret sobbed openly. Marcus, my man of honor, whispered that I'd never looked happier. Nicholas waited at the altar, tears streaming down his face as he watched our children, our miracles, make their way toward us. The vows we wrote were simple but true. I promised to choose you and our family every day, above every deal, every opportunity, every temptation to return to who I was. Nicholas said, I promise to be the man and father you deserve, even when I don't feel deserving. I promise to love you with the intensity one once reserved for success, knowing now that you are my only real achievement. I promise to trust in your transformation even when fear whispers otherwise. I said, I promise to love our children with the fierce devotion of someone who knows how close we came to losing everything. I promise to build a life with you based not on who we were, but who we've become. As we kissed, Emma and Ethan, now 18 months old, clapped and cheered, their joy infectious. The congregation erupted in celebration, but all I could hear was Nicholas whispering against my lips. Thank you for saving us all. 5 years have passed since that day. Emma and Ethan are 6 now, in kindergarten, brilliant and kind and endlessly curious. They know their story, age-appropriately told. That Aunt Victoria gave them life, but couldn't be their mommy. So Mommy Sienna saved them with her special blood and chose to be their mother in all the ways that mattered. They have 2 younger siblings now. 3-year-old James, named for my grandfather, and baby Sarah, just 6 months old. Both pregnancies were carefully monitored, given my rare blood type, but both babies were born healthy, though neither inherited the Rh0 trait. The bakery has 3 locations now, with Marcus running the flagship store. I still bake, teaching my children the recipes my grandmother taught me, watching them measure flour with the same concentration Nicholas once reserved for million-dollar deals. Nicholas kept every promise. He's home for dinner every night. He coaches Emma's soccer team and Ethan's chess club. He can braid hair and host tea parties and build the most elaborate pillow forts known to mankind. His companies still thrive, but he measures success differently now. In first words and family vacations, in bedtime stories and Saturday morning pancakes. Victoria visits twice a year, bringing elaborate gifts and stories of Milan and Paris. The twins call her Aunt Tori and love her the way children love distant relatives who spoil them. She seems content with the arrangement, often telling me I gave her freedom by taking responsibility. We're not friends exactly, but we're something. Two women who loved the same man differently and found peace in accepting our limitations. Margaret lives with us now, in a suite we added to the penthouse. She watches the children when we need her, fills our home with stories and wisdom, and regularly reminds Nicholas that losing me was the stupidest thing he ever did and winning me back the smartest. But the moment that defines our new life happened last week. I was donating blood again, not for the twins this time, but for another baby with Rh-null blood, a little girl in California whose parents had flown her here specifically for my help. Nicholas sat with me during the donation, holding my hand, our 4 children playing quietly with tablets in the corner. "You're still saving lives," he said softly. "We're saving lives." I corrected. "Your money funds the research. Your connections find the families who need help. We're a team. The best team." He agreed, then looked at our children. "Do you ever think about how different everything would be if the twins hadn't needed your blood? They would have died." The thought still chills me. But beyond that, would we have found our way back to each other? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we needed something bigger than ourselves to break through the walls we'd built. Emma looked up then, those green eyes so like mine despite biology suggesting otherwise. "Mommy, when I grow up, I want to save people like you do." "You already do, baby. Every time you share your snack with someone who forgot theirs. Every time you help Ethan when he's scared. Saving people isn't always about blood or money. Sometimes it's just about showing up. Like Daddy showed up for us." Ethan added, wise beyond his years. "Even when he was scared. Even when I didn't deserve the chance." Nicholas whispered. The nurse completing my donation smiled. "You have a beautiful family, Mrs. Ashcroft." Mrs. Ashcroft. A name I'd reclaim not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because sometimes endings are really beginnings in disguise. Because the man who'd shattered me had let himself be shattered in return, and from those broken pieces, we'd built something stronger. "Thank you," I replied. "We worked hard for it." That night, after the children were asleep, Nicholas and I stood on our bedroom balcony, looking out at the city lights. The same view we'd shared during our first marriage, but everything else had changed. "Do you regret it?" he asked, taking us back, taking on the twins, the complications, the constant reminders of what came before. I turned in his arms to face him. Every love story has chapters. Ours just happened to have a really painful middle section. But Nicholas, look how it ends. With 4 beautiful children, a love that survived its own destruction, and the knowledge that we chose each other not from ignorance, but from understanding. It hasn't ended yet. He reminded me. We have decades ahead. Good. I kissed him softly. Because I have plans. More bakeries, more babies if you're brave enough, more chances to prove that sometimes the best families are the ones that shouldn't exist, but do anyway. More babies. His eyes lit up. Really? Maybe. If you're very good, and remember that board meeting is not an acceptable excuse to miss a school play. Never again. He promised, and I believed him because he'd proven it every day for 5 years. As we went inside to check on our sleeping children, one last time before bed like we always did, I thought about the journey that brought us here. The blood that saved 2 lives and redeemed 3 others. The choices that broke us and the choices that remade us. The family that rose from the ashes of the one we'd destroyed. Some people get love right the first time. They meet, they marry, they build their happily ever after without detours or destruction. We weren't those people. We were the ones who had to lose everything to understand its value. Who had to be broken to be rebuilt. Who had to learn that love isn't just a feeling but a choice you make every single day. The twins saved us by nearly dying. My blood saved them by being exactly what they needed. And somewhere in that beautiful, terrible symmetry, we found our way home to each other. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that families can be built from the most unexpected circumstances, that love can survive its own failures, please hit that subscribe button and join our community here at Lux Love Chronicles. Share your own story of unexpected family, of second chances, of love that surprised you with its resilience. Remember, sometimes the thing that seems like an ending is actually the beginning you never saw coming. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, this is Mr. Wentworth reminding you that love doesn't always look like what we expected, but that doesn't make it any less real. Sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones that were never supposed to exist, but fought their way into being anyway. And sometimes, just sometimes, The person who broke your heart is also the only one who can put it back together, stronger and more beautiful for having known both breaking and healing. Love fiercely, forgive bravely, and never underestimate the power of choosing to try again.